Today we're hearing from Donna Marie Coggins on how to use outsourcing to accelerate your business. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, we'll answer them at the end. So you can send them to me and Donna Marie in the chat window in the bottom left-hand corner. Otherwise, we'll let Donna Marie go and do her teaching, and then we'll ask her questions at the end. Donna Marie is the owner of award-winning Jacaranda Business Support Services, a business that's been assisting small businesses to establish and grow since 1998. She is the owner of many websites and manages most of the outsourcing for Brett McFall, and she's been a Telstra Businesswoman of the Year nominee. So she's got some experience in running business, running websites, and lots of experience in outsourcing. So tonight, Donna Marie will be sharing with us one of the things she believes is key to running a successful business: how to accelerate your business with outsourcing. Welcome, Donna Marie.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. I'm really honoured that you've asked me to join you, and especially on your very first webinar for this training program. So I'll get stuck into things straight away. As you just said, tonight's webinar is all about how to accelerate your business with outsourcing. So first of all, why would you outsource? And what is outsourcing? So generally outsourcing is when you pay someone else to do work for you, but it's not usually where you're actually employing staff. It's more employing, or you're hiring staff on a contract basis, whether that's for a set number of hours per week or per project. I'll come to that a little bit later, but that's just the general overview of what outsourcing is. The main reason to outsource is to work on your business and not in it. So think Richard Branson. Okay, Richard Branson is someone who he's a role model of someone I've got a lot of inspiration from, and he runs a number of very successful businesses, but he doesn't do everything himself. He has the general ideas, he manages the business, he does the big picture things, but he has people who do all the nitty-gritty, all the techniques for his businesses. Just imagine you could focus on doing that sort of thing within your business. If you just focused on the ideas and the big picture goals for your business, but you had others doing all the implementation and all the techie stuff and all the things that you don't enjoy, that's probably one of the best things, I think. The thing is, you can. You don't have to wait until you've got a huge business to do that. You can start small, and that will help you to accelerate your business growth so that you can grow to be a huge corporation if you wanted to, or if you just want a small home-based business where you've got a little bit more time to yourself. The sky's the limit, really, so you can choose how much you outsource and how much you do yourself. Something that I read quite a lot is this quote by internet marketer John Reese. Now, John Reese is a US internet marketer. He's actually semi-retired from that industry now. He's now got his own computer game development company, which was a childhood dream of his. But he was very successful in internet marketing, and he was the very first person in this industry to make over $1 million in sales in one day. John is also very big on outsourcing. He comes up with the ideas and he builds teams to manage his businesses, or to manage the details of it, I guess. But he said that wealth management is just a matter of managing your resources. The thing is, of all of your resources, time is the only resource that you can't get more of. And when you think about it, if you need more money, okay, even if money's a little bit tight, you can get more money, whether you borrow money or you do extra work to get that extra money, you can come up with more money. If you need more products or more materials, you can get those. If you need more information, you can get the information. But you can't buy more time. You can't buy more. Once it's used, it's gone, and that's it. So it's really important to be able to manage your time wisely. So why should you listen to me? As Jason said in his introduction, I've got some experience in business management, But it's not just in my own businesses. I actually have perhaps a life history with small business management. My parents ran their own businesses, so from as young as I can remember, I was involved in their businesses, and I probably didn't realise at the time how much I learned from my parents. As a child growing up, I loved that school holidays I would go to work with either mum or dad or grandma, and depending on who I went with made the difference as to whether I went to, which location, whether it was a warehouse or the gift store they had or whatever. But it was really good that I could still spend so much time with my parents and my grandparents, and I loved that. When I was 17, I grew up in Brisbane, but when I was 17, I left home and moved over to Perth, and I'd never been to Perth, over there and lived with my grandparents, and they had a home-based business. So I was actually working for them. They were training me in their business. I not only got to be a part of their business, but the fact that they ran it from the home, they had the office attached to the house, that's where I got the idea that a home-based business was my goal. That was the ultimate for me. And I was, as I said, I was only 17. When I was 18, I started my own business. So I was working full-time. I was a wildlife officer for Parks and Wildlife Service, but I had my own business on the side. And then in 1998, I started the business that I run now. Now, that business that I set up in 1998, that was mostly providing services to other businesses. So as well as doing all this other stuff and having the businesses, I went back to college and I did extra training. I did some training in small business management and also journalism. And I started providing business planning support to other businesses. I was writing press releases, doing a lot of PR work, doing a lot of writing. I discovered writing for magazines was a great way to get free publicity for yourself. And that sort of led me on to all these other opportunities, and I became the editor of a national business magazine for a few years there, which I absolutely loved, and it gave me a lot of extra skills when it comes to small business management. So I've got all that history there, and I guess from that point of view, because I was providing services to other people, I can see what it's like from an outsourcing point of view when you're the person providing the services. Things changed a little bit in that in 2008 I became quite ill and I was no longer able to work, but I still needed to earn money. And so that's when I really discovered outsourcing, and I continued to take on work for my clients, but I would then pay other people to do the actual work for me. Now, it was all above board. My clients were aware of the situation and that was fine, but I got a cut of the profit as well, and I still managed the projects where I was able to, but I wasn't spending all day providing the services. That was a real eye-opener for me, because I could see that there were so many more benefits to that. When you're the one doing all the work, you're limited by the number of hours in each day. And, things like your health, that can play a huge role, because if you're sick for a day or so, that's a big issue. But if you're sick long-term, or you have an accident, or maybe someone close to you needs you to care on a more permanent basis, all these things can affect the amount of work that you can do. And when you're limited in the amount of work that you can do, you're going to limit your income as well. But when you can outsource to others, you're not having to put that time into doing it. You can then take on so much more work and still get it done, and there's really no limit to the amount of income earned. So this is something that I want to discuss with you in tonight's webinar. In the next, I've got 90 minutes on the screen, but it's actually 60 minutes. I don't think Jason will let me talk for 90 minutes, even though I'm sure I could. So in the next 60 minutes, I'm going to share with you the most effective ways to outsource so that you can begin building your own team of outsourcers. Now remember, this is not just from a business owner's point of view, but also from an outsourcer's point of view. So I can share with you things that will make it easier for your freelancers or your outsourcers to do the work for you, which will in turn make it easier for you and make it better for you to get better quality results from the work that's being. So first of all, what can you outsource? This first one I'm going to say is not niche research. This statement gets me into a lot of trouble because there's a lot of people who will tell you you can outsource niche research. From a technical viewpoint, yes, you can. My personal opinion is that you should probably do this yourself, or at least have a amount of input in it. So while you can outsource niche research, I think because it's your business and you're the one who's making the overalls and so on, I think it's really important that you actually research the niche yourself, or you get someone to do the, maybe perhaps the leg work, and they can come up with the numbers and the viability of a niche, but you're the one who makes those ultimate decisions. I think that's really important. But I mean, if you really hate it, by all means you can outsource it. I just recommend it. Some things that are really good to outsource are your ebook or other product creation, transcription, so that's when you record something. It might be you speaking or someone else speaking, or it might be an interview and you get someone to type it up and put that into a text document for you. Interviewing or even editing the interview. Graphic creation, so this could be things like your ebook cover or product images. It could be your website graphics or banners that you have done. Your sales letter and the writing of other marketing material that you'll need for your business. Building of your website, that's a big one because a lot of people get stuck here because they don't know the technical side of building a website, or they try to learn but find it too hard. If you can outsource that, it just takes away so much of the pressure and you get your business going so much quicker. Software creation, that's usually pretty easy to outsource. Database management, and that could include things like managing your World Internet Office account. Product fulfillment, traffic generation. Now, traffic generation, that can come into a number of categories. So that could be article writing and submission of articles to article directories. It could be social media marketing using Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, sites like that. The writing and management of posts. Your ad design, or maybe getting banners designed for advertising. Pay-per-click ad campaign management, that's things like Google AdWords, Yahoo, pay-per-click and Facebook. They're the three biggest ones, Facebook ads. Could be the writing of press releases and submitting of press releases. Posting on forums, the video creation and even the editing and uploading of your videos to video sharing sites or to your website. Writing your emails, affiliate program management, joint venture management, even customer support, and then your account management, so things like your bookkeeping and accounting. That's an overview of the main things that you can outsource. There's a lot of other things as well, but they're probably the most popular and the ones that I'd suggest you get started on fairly soon. But the next thing is where to find the right people, okay? Because it's all very well to say, yep, I'm going to outsource all these tasks, but where do you go to find the people who can do this work for you? There's a number of different sites, and I'm only sharing a few of them here with you tonight because others will be here all night. Most popular ones are elance.com, odesk.com, freelancer.com, fiverr.com, and one that's not quite as widely known, but it's one that I like to use, is a Clayton Secretary. Now, I'll just give you a quick overview of these ones. Elance and Odesk and Freelancer are all similar in that you go to these sites and you can view the profiles of people who will do work for you, and you can go through and choose people who look like they might be a good fit for you. You can approach them and ask them if they're interested in doing your job and how much they charge and so forth, and you can negotiate with them. Alternately, you could You can post your own job on these sites and open them up for bidding. And bidding means that other people who provide services will read your job post and they'll come back to you and say, I can do that job for you. Here's why I think you should hire me for the project, and this is what I'll charge you to do it. I prefer to post the job first of all and let people come to me, but in some cases you can also contact the freelancers. If you find some that might be suitable, you can contact them and let them know, I've posted a job. If you're interested, would you like to bid on this job? And that way you can sort of narrow down who you're going to get a little bit. But certainly by posting the job, the biggest thing is you can save a lot of time rather than actually going through everyone's profiles to try to find who's going to be suitable for the job. By bidding on the job or posting a job for people to bid on, you can then go through all these submissions and decide who you think might be best, and you can give them the job. And then the beauty of that is that the site that you're using, whether it's Elance, Odesk or Freelancer, they will be like an intermediate. They get a cut of the price. So if you're doing a job for $100, it might be that $10 of that goes to Odesk or Elance or Freelancer, and the other $90 goes to doing the job. What happens is when you decide that, okay, Joe Blogs is going to be doing this job for me, you pay the money to, let's use Odesk as an example, you pay the money to them, they hold those funds in trust, Joe Blogs does the job, and when you've approved it, Odesk then pays Joe for his work that he's done. So there's security there for both sides in that the person doing the work knows that they're not going to get ripped off. The funds have gone to the outsourcing site, say Odesk, and they're going to get the money as soon as they've done a good job for you. You know that you're not going to get ripped off because you don't have to actually pay. Like even though you paid Odesk, you're not paying the freelancer for work if they don't do what they'll do. So there's a little bit of security there, and that's why I love using sites. Fiverr.com is a little bit different. It works in much the same way in that you pay Fiverr and then you can go and you can buy jobs basically. Now the jobs on Fiverr are mostly $5, but what you'll find is that most of the people doing work there, they'll provide a particular job for $5 or a particular service for $5, but then they'll have add-on things. That might be, okay, basic black and white image is going to $. If you want it in colour, it's an extra $5. If you want it returned in 24 hours, it's an extra $10 and things like that. So you can sort of customise a little bit to suit yourself. The other thing is you do have the option of contacting the service providers on Fiverr and saying, look, what I want doing is similar to what you're offering, but it's a little bit different. How much would you charge to do this? So that's a worthwhile site going to as well. Acquaintance Secretary is an Australian-based group of international virtual assistants. Assistants who work, as the name implies, in a virtual manner, that they work from their own homes, but they'll do all services for you. And it might be website design, be things like general personal assistance, secretarial type work, graphic design. There's all sorts of skills that these VAs have, and you contact a Clayton secretary, you let them know what you're looking for, and they will have some of their virtual assistants contact you and let you know how they can do the job, how much they'll charge and so on. You do usually pay more at a Clayton secretary than what you would pay with some of the sites, but that is very good. And you can often get more of a personal relationship there. So it's worthwhile going there as well. The other thing I'll just mention quickly with the other site, like Elance, Odesk, Freelancer, Fiverr and sites like that, is that it's not always a good idea to go with the cheapest option. You will sometimes get people saying that they'll write an article for you, $2 an article or $5 an article. but it might be that their English isn't very good and their grammar isn't very good, and in turn the article isn't very good. So sometimes it's worth paying a little bit more to get a decent quality service provided, but you know, sometimes you can get really good deals there as well. Next thing that I'd like to share with you is the 5 things that you must do when you're outsourcing. So the first thing is to give clear instructions and examples of what you want. This one is really important because the clearer the instructions that you can give, the better the job is going to be, and the more likely that the person providing the service will get it right first time without, you know, making all sorts of, because they've simply misunderstood what you wanted. So there's some ways that you can do that. Depending on what the job is that you want doing, if it's something of a graphic nature, then drawings can help, or even if it's a website, you might want to do drawings of the sort of layout design that you want. Photos can be good, examples of other websites or other images or other products. So if you're getting a graphic designed, you might send the actual graphics, or you might just send the person a linked site with examples of images that are similar to what you want doing. Now remember, you don't want them to copy, you don't want to breach copyright, but this can just be examples of a colour in these ads. I like the style or the font in this ad, things like that. Mind maps are really good. If you know what they are and you like doing mind, they can help to convey what you're after. Things like colours and style, target market. If your outsourcer knows these details, make it so much easier for them to do the job for you. So give really clear instructions, examples of what you want doing. The other thing actually is, if you're good with using videos and you can do a little video to demonstrate what you're after where it's appropriate, then that can be good too. The second thing is to have your job brief ready before you start outsourcing the task. And by job brief, I mean a summary of what you want doing. Now, what I suggest is that initially you might, let's say you're posting a job on one of these job sites, you might initially just give the very basics information, like I'm looking for someone to build a 5-page website for me. You might also tell them, if you know what program you want it built in, if you know you want it in WordPress or you want a HTML site or whatever, you tell them that information as well, just enough for them to be able to provide an accurate quote on what the job will cost. You don't want to give too much detail here because you don't want other people seeing your job and going, oh, he's building a website on how to train poodles. That's a good idea. I'm going to go build a website on how to train poodles and create a product, and he's just become your latest competitor. Okay, so that's really important. In addition to that, you then want a more detailed brief. So your outsourcer has been chosen, posted your job, you've got some bids and you've chosen who you're going with, then you need to give them more detailed instructions. And this would be all the specific details of what you want on the page, maybe your words. You need to let them know a lot more specifics and login details that they might need, things like that. Good idea to have all this ready before you're sourcing, and that way as soon as you post your job you can move quickly and get all these things happening really quickly, and you're not holding up your worker because you don't have all the data ready for them, or if they need more information or they ask it again, you don't want to hold them up because you're not prepared for them to do the job just yet. The third thing, hang on to good outsourcers. Pay them well, and if you can, you can offer additional or gifts. Now, you may not necessarily do this the first time someone does work for you, but if someone does a really good job on a project and then you've got another project with some similar work, you might go back to that person, and that's where you start really giving them all the extras that you can. So any additional bonuses or gifts to show that you appreciate them, because the thing is, a really good one is going to be in demand, and there's going to be others who want to give them lots of work. So you want to make sure that when they get really busy, they choose to stay with you and keep working for you. This one, it should go with, but unfortunately a lot of people don't do this, and that's to say thank you. Just saying things like, thank you, you did a great job, I really appreciate you doing. Or maybe if they've done something that was in addition to what you asked them to do, or they've done a rush job for you, make sure that you thank them and show your appreciation, because it's actually something that a lot of people don't do, and it's one of the real bugbears for people who provide freelance services, is that people just don't appreciate them and don't say thank you. They just pay them the money and disappear. You don't want to be one of those people. You want to be someone who appreciates your workers so that they want to keep working for you. The third thing here is to leave positive feedback. Now, if you're using a site like Freelancer, Odesk or Elance, any of those sorts of sites, and Fiverr.com, a lot of it works on a feedback system where when someone does work for you or does a work for anyone, at the end of the job, each party leaves feedback on how the other person was. So you will leave feedback on how the worker was, whether they provided a good service, if they did everything on time, did they communicate well. Most sites will have a 5-star rating, and they'll also allow you to leave a comment as well. It works both ways in that the people providing the service can also rate the person who paid them. So you want to get good feedback so that other people will want to do your work for you, but you also want to leave positive feedback if they did a good job. And again, that's going to help them work for you again in the future. Fourth thing that you must do is allow your contractors to have input. Let them make suggestions. Let them know that you welcome their suggestions. And if they want to create documentation that's going to simplify how this task is done or make it easier if it's a recurring task, all these sorts of things show that you have faith in them and that you trust them. And then again, they're going to want to keep working for you. It's not just so that they'll work for you, but it also makes them feel good in themselves. Sometimes it's easy to get stuck in a little bit of a rut, and people doing these services, they like to have a little bit of a challenge. They like to be able to offer their own input and maybe have their own creativity involved and things like that. So where possible, if you can allow that and let them know that it's okay, you're going to end up getting better results. And the thing is, if they've got a good suggestion, it doesn't mean you have to go with it. It's just worthwhile listening to. And the fifth thing is to systemise, rinse and repeat. When you've got something that's working well, you want to make sure that it's documented so that it can continue to work well. And you can document the systems, or you can have the people doing the work for you document your systems, but this is more for recurring tasks. If you find someone who does a good job at it, that's great if they can keep coming back and do it again and again. But if that person then can't do the work anymore, if you've got all your systems documented, it means someone else can just slip in and follow those systems, they can read those documents and do the same work, and they're not having to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. So it's really important that you do that, and just start small, start with one project, and then the more projects you start doing or the more tasks you start outsourcing, document all of them as well. Following up from the 5 things that you must do, these are the 5 things that you must not do. First of all, don't keep changing your mind or take forever to make decisions. That's the person working for you, because they just want to get the job done as quickly as possible so that they can move on to other jobs, or they can move on to other jobs of yours or to other people, but they also want you to get your project done as quickly as possible. Little tip here, a common trait of successful entrepreneurs is the ability to make decisions quickly. Now, this is something I first heard from Donald Trump, and let's face it, whether or not you're a fan of Donald Trump, he is in business. He's made a lot of money, he's lost a lot of money, but he knows how to make it again. And that's one thing he said, is that one of the skills to have to be successful in business is to make decisions quickly. Most of the time, making a wrong decision is going to be less damaging than making no decision at all. When you think about it, that makes perfect sense. Most things, if you make a wrong, they can be fixed. But if you make no decision, you're just going to stay where you are and you're never going to grow your business. The second thing is that you not accept job offers from people without good feedback and ratings. So remember, in the things that you must do, I said to leave positive feedback if someone does a good job. By the same token, if they do a bad job, you need to leave honest feedback so that other people are aware of the situation. Don't accept job offers from people who don't have at least a 4-star rating. I usually look for 4.5 to 5 stars. That said, I also go through the feedback and read the general comments, and also look at the number of people who have provided feedback. If you've got someone who's 2 jobs and both people have given 5-star feedback, that's okay. But if you've got someone else who has done maybe 50 jobs or 100 jobs and they've got an average of 5-star feedback, obviously they've got a better track record. So I'd be going with what's got the better feedback over the larger amount of work that they've done. Third thing is free to high-cost jobs without trial first. So things like if you were getting an ebook written, that could cost you $500, $800 for a really good quality ebook. I would start by getting a small job done. So maybe getting an article written, or a couple of, or maybe a 10-page report. That's going to cost a lot less, and that way, if it really is a complete mess and you don't want to use that person again, at least you haven't lost a lot of money and you haven't wasted too much time. So start by giving small paid jobs, and then when you're happy with that job, then you can give them bigger and more expensive jobs. If you're giving a small role, I always like to invite people to use their initiative within this project, because that helps you to see whether they've got initiative and what it's like. It's a good way to get a really good overview of their skills. And I also like to give a deadline such as, please get this done as soon as you can. Because in doing that, you can see what sort of priority they're putting on it. Your version of as soon as you can might be completely different to someone else's. So you want them to choose what their interpretation of this is. Now, for bigger projects, it's better to give deadlines, or anything that is really important and has a deadline. By all means, give a deadline. But a small job for a trial, just as a bit of a test, ask them to get it done as soon as. This is a person who is relying on providing services for income, and if they have to do all these for nothing all the time, that's eating into their time and their income, and it's just not fair. So a small paid job, a $5, $10, even a $20 job, and then take it from there and see if you want to give them the more expensive work. Now, the fourth thing is, don't limit your outsourcing skills to just your own business. By that I mean, if you're able to manage outsourcing for your own business, what about to manage outsourcing services for other businesses as well? So if you find that you start doing this and it's actually working really well for you, you might then start offering services, perhaps providing services building websites or graphic design or something like that. But then you manage the project and you outsource it to someone else. Or go one step further, you can hire a project manager to manage these services. So you're stepping back again and you're just focusing on the big picture, and you've got your team doing all the nitty-gritty and the actual hands-on work. So in doing this, you can sell the service, outsource and manage it, or hire a project manager. And that's a way that you can, in fact, that could be a business on its own, even if you don't have a business idea yet. I've just given you one. I know a few people who are doing this and doing very well out of it. And in fact, I know one person in particular who this is her only business. She has no other income other than the fee that she gets for outsourcing or managing outsourcing for other businesses. And the fifth and final point here is don't complicate things. Okay, too often we get a really good idea and then we start fiddling with it and adding to it and getting all complex, and it just gets too hard and we don't end up following through. So you need to keep it simple. Start with the basics and then you can build on it from there. The thing is, what I've just said might sound really interesting and you might think, that's great, I'm going to build my team and I'm going to outsource everything that I can in my business and I'm going to jump into it straight away, and by this time next week I'll be set. If this is brand new to you, chances are you won't be able to do it all straight away. You'll think it's great and then you'll go to Elance and you'll get all confused with exactly what you're doing, and it can be a little tempting to give up. What I suggest is that you create a plan first. You map out what you need to do for perhaps one website or one business idea or one product that you want to see from the product creation right through to the marketing. Plan that out and then start at step one. Find someone to provide the services that you need for the first part of that, and then find someone for part 2 and part 3 and build up gradually. As you find people who do a really good job, you might find a really good graphic designer, try to hang on to them so you don't have to keep looking for someone to do graphic design work. You've always got your one person, or maybe 2 or 3 if your business is that big, but you've always got your set team members who you can go to and say, hey, I need this new graphic created. How soon can you have this for me? So start small, build gradually. I'd like you to think about this for a moment. What happens if you're ill, or you're injured perhaps, and you're unable to work for some time? Wouldn't it be good to know that your business can continue without you or with very little input from you? Now, I know that you can get things like income protection insurance, but quite often there's a delay in the time, like the wait period before you can actually get that, and it might only be 50% or 75% of your normal income. So if you've got something that's going to last maybe 6, 12 months or even longer, that can be a huge financial burden for you. But if your business was set up so that it runs with very little, if any, input from you, then it's going to keep ticking over without you having to be there day in, day out. I would recommend this be your long-term goal. Even if you never get ill or injured, and I hope that you don't, it should still be a long-term goal. And even just for the sheer thought of being able to go on a month holiday, if you want to, you can do it. You don't have to worry about who's going to run the business and where it will come from. It's a goal that I recommend all businesses have, and it's something that I do tend to push quite a bit. So that's basically the end of what I'd like to talk about tonight and how to use outsourcing to accelerate your growth. We do have time for questions. So Jason, do we have any questions?
Folks, do we have any questions? If you want to put them into the chat in the bottom. Otherwise, I've got a couple of questions here already. So if I was going to have a go at outsourcing one of my projects for the very first time, and I'm a complete beginner at this stuff and I don't really know what I'm doing, where should I start?
Okay, I would start with a small project with a site like fiverr.com. Elance or Odesk would also be okay, but something like Fiverr I think it's a little bit easier to use. You don't get as much scope in the types of people, but it's really good just to get some practice. Even if you just find a couple of $5 jobs that are more fun than work. And I know, Jason, you and I both did that on Fiverr in that we found someone to create caricatures for us, which was more a fun thing. That sort of thing can be good just to go and have a play with it and get used to it. And then when you're more comfortable, go to a site like Odesk or Elance or Freelancer.
Yeah, I guess what that did for me is it built my confidence, didn't it? So now I have the confidence to go and outsource other things, and that was a bit of fun as well. What if I don't like the job that's being done for me? What do I do then?
Okay, it depends on how you found the person who's doing the job for you. If you go through a site like those that I during this presentation, then what you'll usually find is that if you're not happy with the job, you can ask for it to be redone, or you can... Basically, it's good to give the outsourcer a chance to fix it. Perhaps they just misunderstood what you wanted, or there was some sort of communication issue. Give them a chance to fix it. If it's still not good enough, or maybe it's the deadline's long gone and there's still no sign of the work being done, what you can do then is cancel the job and you don't pay for it. The person providing the service only gets paid when you approve that you're happy with the job, that it's completed, you're happy for them to have the money, and then those funds are transferred to the person who provided the services. If you do it privately, so if you just find someone, maybe on the sites like Craigslist, you'll sometimes find people offering services there. I know some people who have found really good workers on sites like Craigslist. The reason I don't recommend them is that for beginners particularly, you don't have that sort of added security. So generally we would pay for the work up front, and then if the person disappears or you don't like the job, too bad, you've just lost your money.
Okay.
So go through one of the professional work sites that I mentioned, and you've got that added security there.
So I've outsourced a job and I didn't like what I got back, and I've since realised that it was my brief that was the problem, not the job. The job actually complied with the brief, and I had the brief wrong. What would you suggest I do in that sort of circumstance?
I think in that circumstance, normally I would try to work with the person providing the services and to say, look, this isn't really what I wanted, but I must admit I perhaps wasn't clear enough in my instructions. Clarify what you're wanting, and it might be that you pay a little bit extra, but they redo the job for you. So in that instance, because you didn't give the instructions as clear as you perhaps could have, then I don't think it's fair to not pay the person for the job. If that makes sense. It's a bit hard if you then have to pay for the job all over again. Most good providers will work with you and renegotiate for a reduced cost to redo the work correctly.
Bear with me just a moment here, folks. I'm interested in outsourcing components of my traditional business, for example, accounts, technical support, phone support, etc. Is that practical?
Absolutely. Most definitely. And actually something I didn't mention here or during the presentation, I also recommend outsourcing personal tasks as well. One of the first things that I outsourced was having my lawn mowed. I hate doing the lawn, and my son's not fond of it, and even if he was to do it, I've still got to drive out and get the fuel and all that sort of thing, and I can't be bothered, so I pay someone to do it. Things like that, it's all freeing up your time to do more of what you're good at and what you want to do. In a traditional business, accounts, that's again one of the first things I would recommend is finding a good accountant, because you don't need to be training in how to manage your accounts and all the tax laws and like that. Bookkeeping, most people can probably learn how to do their own bookkeeping, but again, if that's not your area of specialty, it makes sense that you pay someone who can probably do it in half the time than for you to be doing it, and then, you know, every time there's a change in the tax laws, you might have to change the way you're keeping your records or something like that. Outsource it to someone who can do the job. With those sorts of things, in a lot of cases, it's good to actually find someone who's local, who you can see face to face, but it's not always essential. I've been using the same accountant for, I think about 18 or 19 years now, and I've never met him. By phone, email and sending by registered post. And yeah, I've never actually, so it can be done. Bookkeeping now, there's a lot of ways that you do things online without actually having to send all your receipts and things like that. And even phone support and technical support. Again, there's places and people who will do that for you. So you need to give them clear instructions on what you want. There might be a little bit of time in training them, but most definitely I think it's worthwhile to do that, and then you can concentrate on the bigger picture things.
Great. What's the most important thing to put into a job brief?
Goodness, I actually don't think there is one most important thing. It depends on the job itself, but certainly if it's a website, you need to let them know all sorts of things like number of pages, whether or not you need the person doing the work to provide the content as well, or if you've got the content, you'll give them, whether they need to do research. There are a number of important components, so I don't think any one is more important than the other.
So probably just detail there, I guess, as much detail as you can for what you're after.
Yeah, actually, that sums it up.
Do I need to be concerned about security? For example, if I'm getting a website built for me and the web designer asks for my login details for my hosting account or any other accounts, you know, my World Internet Office account, for example, or anything like that, should I give them my login details?
In a lot of cases you will need to, but I would be cautious. So things like having your website built or having your managed for you, the job can't be done if the person who's doing it can't access the accounts. What I would suggest though is that you be cautious in that you only provide what you absolutely have to. Have a look to see whether there's a way to give partial access. So a lot of accounts now, you can set up like a user account where someone can log in with that user account details and they can access certain parts of the account, but they don't access. So they might not have access to the setup or the billing or things like that, or wherever your credit card details are stored, but they can still have access to just what they need to in order to do the job. Also, wherever I provide login details, go and change those once the person's finished the job. Once you've had someone doing the job for quite a while, maybe they've been doing it recurring on a regular basis, you probably build up trust and you might feel more confident in letting them have continued access then, that's okay. But if it's just a one-off job, go and change your logins as soon as they've done what they need to. The other account details, there may be exceptions for these, but well, generally, if it's something like your accountant or bookkeeper, they can usually access what they need to without actually having to log into your account. Same with your PayPal account. You do need to be a little bit cautious with that because it is in effect a bank account. So where you have to give PayPal login details, maybe you need someone to set up your payment links or something like that. As soon as they've done, go and change the logins to something completely different.
Makes sense. And one last question. Traditionally, we think of outsourcing as using overseas resources. So in our industry, I think we think of Odesk and Elance and everything, and a lot of them coming from international resources. Excuse me. Does it make sense for some tasks to be outsourced locally and some tasks to be overseas, or does it make more sense for it all to be overseas? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, I was having a conversation with someone about this just last night because I started talking about outsourcing and I started writing for magazines about outsourcing back in the late 90s, and it was never deemed an overseas. It was always just outsourcing is when you pay someone else to do tasks for you, as an employee as such. But I think in the last years particularly, we think more and more of outsourcing overseas, particularly like Thailand, Philippines, India, countries where their cost of living is a lot lower. And I know a lot of businesses have done very well by doing that because they're paying their team members, $2, $5 an hour. Just can't get locally when we're in Australia, US, New Zealand or Great Britain and similar countries. From a financial viewpoint, initially it looks very attractive, but there are a lot of things that you need to be wary of, and things like the language difficulty, or not difficulty, just the different languages and cultural differences. There are some things that I think you can get away with. There are others that you should look for someone where English is a first language. Things like phone support, it can depend on whether your business is a local-based business or if it's international. If it's a local-based business, then if nothing else, just the cost of the phone calls, it's probably going to be easy to have someone locally do it. By all means, weigh out the different factors, but yeah, there's definitely some areas where I would recommend going with someone local.
Okay, actually, I have one last question to sum up tonight, Donna Marie. I'm sure a lot of our attendees have some other questions as well. But how can we get more advice from you on this topic? How can we use you as a resource for this topic?
Well, Jason, I've actually got a training program that I can offer your customers about that.
Can you tell us about that? Would that be okay?
I certainly can, and I've got some slides ready, just in case you ask this. I was hoping I could offer it to you.
No problems, let's go.
The truth is, the more you know, the better you do. So for anyone who would seriously like to build their own team of outsourcers, I've got a way that can help make that happen. I'd like to offer my guidance to you through my Outsourcing Made Easy coaching program. Now this is a three-part program. Part one is an e-learning website, and from this website I'll show you the inside secrets of outsourcing. So a few things that you don't normally learn from just reading online. I'll show you where to find the perfect team members for you, how to hire team members the right way and save you so much money. If you make mistakes when hiring people, you can lose a lot of money, not to mention the time factor, and remembering we can never get that time back. I'll also show you how and when to pay your team members. This is especially important if you've got team members overseas. Banking is not always as easy as it is paying within the same country. And I'll show you what to do if there's a problem with your project and a lot more. Now these lessons are mostly in video and audio and text format. So whichever way you prefer to learn, then all three. Part two of the program is a series of easy to use templates. So I actually give you example job briefs that you can copy and you can use for your own projects. So all you need to do is download these templates. They're all in a Word format so you can edit them easily, and you just adjust them for your own project. Writing your briefs this way, it's going to save you a lot of money on your jobs, and you'll often find sources will quote you lower prices because they can see that you're organised and you've got all the information here, and they've got a good idea that you're going to be pretty easy to work with. So if you can get lower quotes for your job, it's all worthwhile. Using these templates, it's going to save you a ton of time as well because you're not having to think of all the ideas and come up with them from scratch. And I've made them as easy as possible to use. Part three of this program is that I'll share with you tools to make things easy. So these are recommended tools that I've found helpful in managing people who are doing the work for me. So sharing details of the jobs to be done, or just communication, things like that. Share with you what tools they are. By having these tools, you're going to get better results from your team as well, and whatever makes it easier for both sides, yourself and the people providing the services, it's going to make it better overall. I also provide details of my recommended outsourcers, and this is something that I update regularly. So quite often you'll find people there where I've worked with them before, I know they do a good job, so you can go straight to them rather than having to post your own job if you want to. So with my Outsourcing Made Easy program, I'll show you what to do, when to do it, and you'll save money on the projects that you're outsourcing by being able to have this information up front. You're also going to get access to this training at a very low price because it's so new. Now, this program is less than 6 months old, but I've only offered it once before, and it's not yet available to the general public. Now, if you'll allow me to ask you for a testimonial, then I'm going to invest in you considerably, and that's because it's so new. I'm looking for feedback to help make it a better program, but also, to help share once I'm ready to go public with this. When it's released to the public, it will be a $497 program. But because Jason has asked me to offer you the best deal possible, and I'd like to think I've done that, I'm not going to make it $497 for you to start one new business rather than in it. I'm not even going to ask $397 or $297, $197, not even $97. In fact, you don't even have to say yes to my program. All I'm asking for is a maybe, and that can get you into the program. So what I put together is a deal where you can try it for 30 days. So purchase a program for 30 days. If it provides the help that you need, that's great. I hope it does. I believe it will. But if it doesn't, then just let me know and I'll refund your money in full. No questions asked, no admin fees, you can get it all back. So I think that's a pretty fair deal, and that's why I'm only asking $67 for it, and I think it's a really easy decision to make. So just to recap on that, for the $67 you get part one of the program, which is the e-learning website. This has got the videos, audios and tutorials. It's got part two, which is the easy to use templates, and part three is the tools and the recommended resources that are going to help make this so much easier for you. So here's why this is a smart deal. Okay, if I can save you just $67 in your outsourcing, it's been worthwhile investing in this training. But imagine if you make mistakes. If you learn by trial and error, you could cost yourself a considerable amount of money, and a lot more than $67. So if you think you'd like my help in building your team, I'd really like to help you to working on your business rather than in your business. And remember that big picture goal that we had of you being able to have as little or as much input as you like. If this is for you, then I look forward to welcoming you on board, and I've set up a page where you can go and order this. Now this is just for Jason's customers, so it's a special page and it's on the screen now, and I think Jason's also put the link in the chat box down in the bottom left of the screen. So Jason, thank you very much. I hope that's helpful for your customers and for you, and yeah, thank you for having me tonight.
Donna Marie, thank you for being our expert on our first webinar, our first success webinar, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Now, to everyone that's on the webinar, stay tuned to our next one, which will be all about communicating with your customers and what procedures to follow there. So thank you, Donna Marie, and once again, if anyone wants that, they can go to that link that's there. Otherwise, we'll talk again soon. See you in cyberspace.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you inviting me, and all the best with the rest of your webinar series.